Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Heat Illness Prevention Annual Training for employees. My name is Patricia Duarte. I am one of the certified health education specialists working in the Department of Health 5 in the Los Angeles County. Thank you all so much for connecting with us today, being here present, and I hope we have a interactive training today. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen so that all of you are able to see the presentation. There we go. Okay. Now, before getting started, do any of you know what a heat illness is? Have you heard of this before? Maybe at work? Have you heard of this term in the past? Any ideas as to what a heat illness injury can be? Feel free to unmute yourself, or use the chat box to share with us. Thank you. All right, so getting started, why is this training necessary or important to provide? Well, construction workers are at risk of death, injuries, illnesses, and reduced productivity resulting from heat exposure on the job. Now, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, between 1992 and 2016, 285 construction workers died from heat-related causes, which is more than a third of all US occupational deaths from heat exposure. Because of this reason, because of these statistics and these findings, it is important for us to share this information with you all today. And please, throughout the presentation, feel free to use the chat box feature or unmute yourself if you have any questions or any concerns. Now, what is the purpose and objective of this training? The objectives for today include learning about the different types of heat stress, identifying signs and symptoms of heat illness, identify emergency response procedures, and learn employee responsibilities. The purpose for today's training is to understand the potential hazards of heat illness in the workplace. Now, what are some risk factors for heat stress and illness? Risk factors are going to be those habits, characteristics that increase our risk of certain conditions. In this case, we are talking about heat stress, heat exhaustion, or heat stroke. So what can increase our risk of those heat-related injuries? We talk about weather conditions such as temperature, the humidity, or air movement. And then we also take a look at personal risk factors. This can include the type of clothing and personal protective equipment workers are using, physical condition, the age, and water consumption throughout the day. Now, what are some different types of heat stress or heat-related illnesses? We have a few here, so we're going to go over what each of these is and also their signs and symptoms. So starting off with heat exhaustion, the cause is excessive loss of water and salt through sweat. Signs and symptoms will include feeling dizzy, headaches, sweaty skin, fast heartbeat, nausea or vomiting, weakness, and cramps. What about heat stroke? Heat stroke is a complete breakdown of the body's cooling system. Signs and symptoms include the skin being very red, very hot and dry, mental confusion, losing consciousness, seizures or convulsions. Now, I want to highlight or emphasize here in the slide that heat strokes are a life-threatening medical emergency. It's important to obtain medical assistance immediately if you or one of your coworkers is experiencing heat stroke. Now, lastly, we have heat rash. Heat rash is red, bumpy skin irritation caused by blocked sweat glands. Signs and symptoms includes a red cluster of pimples or small blisters. And a heat rash is more likely to happen on the neck, upper chest, in the groin, under the breast, and in elbow creases. So a couple, again, of types of heat stress here. They might sound very similar to one another, to each other, but again, each one is different and it comes with different signs and symptoms. So it's important to recognize the signs and symptoms for each. Now, what are some prevention procedures? Remember to rest in shaded areas, stay hydrated throughout the workday, avoid vigorous physical activities in hot and humid weather, or also reducing the type of exercise that you are doing. Avoid alcohol, coffee, and tea, as these strains may lead to dehydration. Take frequent mini breaks to hydrate yourself, and wear hats, light colored and light loose fitting clothing. What are employee responsibilities? So what should we be doing? Any employee who recognizes the symptoms or signs of heat illness in themselves or in other coworkers should immediately report this condition to their supervisor. What can you do? When you recognize signs of heat illness in yourself or in a coworker, move them to a shaded area for a recovery period of at least 5 minutes. If you notice that the condition appears to be severe or the employee does not recover, then emergency medical care will be needed. Make sure to call 911 if your supervisor is not readily available. Immediately report to your supervisor any symptoms or signs of heat illness you may be experiencing or anything that you might be observing in a coworker. Now, we went over the different types of heat stress, the risk factors associated with heat illness. We talked about some emergency procedures. What are next steps? Now, you can visit our website for more heat illness resources and educational material. You can visit us at www.dph5.gov, or you can also give us a call. We have our phone number here, which is 888-505-3201, 3200. And again, this is if you would like to receive more trainings, receive free resources or educational material. Lastly, I did want to highlight that we have bilingual handouts available for you as well, such as this one here. This one here is an example, again, of heat illnesses, the different types of heat illnesses, and the importance of knowing those emergency procedures. We have this one available in both English and Spanish. And again, if you would like to receive any of these resources, please feel free to reach out to us so we can go ahead and provide those to you. We want to make sure that you are aware of this health topic, that you know the signs and symptoms, and you know what to do in case you are experiencing a heat illness at work, or also if you observe one of your coworkers with signs and symptoms of heat illness. Here are the references that were used for today's training. I want to thank you all for joining today's heat illness prevention annual training. Does anyone have questions?